He's going to talk more about himself, I'm sure. He used to pastor in the church in the Valley for a while, and now he's traveling around North America and doing seminars on apologetics. I want to start with a quotation by Richard Dawkins, a famous, or in Christian circles, infamous atheist who was fuming against everything life that is according to faith. And so here's what he says about the universe, right? He says, the universe we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is, at bottom, no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. What an exalted quotation for us. I'm going to read another quotation by him for the second service, which seems to go against what he just said. But I'm going to leave it at that, because we're talking about, can the universe exist without God? Some of them say yes, but let's check that claim. So, good morning, Pastor Walter. We are happy to have you, and the time is yours. If you need any help for the props, I'll be here.
Just take the music stand, please. Well, good morning, and I was surprised I see a bunch of students from Caribou. How you guys doing? Good to see you again. So I was able to be up in Caribou for a week for last year, and so there's going to be some overlap, but I'm always updating my messages, so hopefully you'll be able to see a few new things I've put in there. Even put a few new things in right in this morning. And so, my clicker. Clicker's in the off, so you can grab that off the table. So we came in here, and I have everything ready on Apple, and Apple and PowerPoint don't work together all the time. And I put everything over to PowerPoint, and there's a whole bunch of glitches. So I've just been scrambling, reformatting everything. But anyhow, we're going to be here this weekend, and last night we shared the story of two brothers, myself and my brother, and of course I'm a pastor who goes around telling people that God is real. My brother is what you would call so often they wouldn't go around openly attacking it, but they're like, it's okay if people believe this fairy tale, it makes their lives better or happier or whatever, but I just don't believe it's true. Where now hostile atheist is God doesn't exist and religion is bad for people. Science good, religion bad. Which, of course, right there, you're in major scientific trouble because there's entire courses, PhDs, in the study of sociology of religion. And when you study sociology of religion, I have the textbook here, one of the textbooks for sociology of religion. And sociology of religion tells you scientifically the religion is very powerful and often a very good force in people's lives, right? And so you can't say science good, religion bad, because science shows you religion has a positive effect on people's lives, especially Protestant Christianity. Then today we're talking about, is the universe possible without God? That's this morning. We're going to play some games. Hope you guys are ready to have some fun with that. We're going to look at some probabilities. Then, can life happen by chance? Can you get life without God? We have life. Life started. How did life start? And can it start without God? And then my favorite sermon, we're going to do it this afternoon at 1:30. We have free potluck, stay for the food. My favorite sermon is Santa versus Jesus. It's going to have a little bit of a royal rumble between Santa Claus and Jesus Christ of Nazareth, okay? And this is my family. They're actually just good timing. Just walking in right now, it's my beautiful wife back there, Sarah. My first and favorite teenager, Clayton Rodgers. Say hi, Clayton. Yeah, and there's Kodiak behind him in the red, the proud owner recently of his first dirt bike. And there's Christopher, who loves to wake up early in the morning, has a great sense of humor. And then my little princess, Kalea. Say hi, Kalea. Yeah, she's the extrovert. Her and I are the extroverts in the family. And then all the Caribou students know this, but my wife and I, in September, we had finished selling our house, and we moved into the motorhome, and we transitioned, been pastors for 22 years, still a pastor, but a local church pastor like Pastor Bob. and we transitioned to full-time mobile ministry. So traveling around North America, and later this year going to Brazil, talking about evidence for God. And so last night we shared a little bit how my brother became an atheist, and I didn't even know he was struggling. I was always kind of soft spot, like, man, I wish I could have talked to him before he got a divorce. You know, if you want to save a relationship, it's always easier. You guys are dating? If you guys have problems, come talk to me before you break up, because if I can talk to you before you break up, it's way easier than after you break up and say a bunch of mean, nasty things about each other, right? So I never had a chance to talk to my brother, so part of what I'm doing is I'm going around. I know people got questions. Everybody has doubts, right? And I want to talk to you first. Like, let's take it head on. Let's talk about the biggest questions, the biggest doubts you have, right? We'll have Q&A after the messages too. And let's at least discuss them. Not that anybody has all the answers. Let's weigh them, right? Let's weigh belief versus non-belief, and let's do it fairly. So can we talk first? And after my brother stopped believing in God, I did all this research. I'll just kind of share briefly. I had a sweaty palm moment. You know when you get nervous, your palms get sweaty? Like when you're asking your girlfriend out for the first date. Sorry, I won't pick on you too much. They're right in the front, which I love, right? But, you know, you get nervous, your palms get sweaty. Well, my brother and I, we were being mature adults and arguing on Facebook. You guys might remember some of these debates back in 2014 if you're following William and I. But we were there arguing back and forth, and one of his friends was also chiming in. How this whole thing's a lie. It's all fake. It's all garbage, da-da-da-da-da, right? And then my brother called me out and said, Walter, you grew up in a Christian family. You went to a Christian school. You went to Christian university, and you get paid money to tell people about God. That's kind of like someone working for the oil industry, right? Arguing with them about climate change, right? Just chances are, if they work in the oil industry, they're less likely to believe in climate change. Just money has an influence, right? You know, even pastors might have a little bit. As my brother called me out, and I had this like kind of this I had this swallow, like he's right. I've been in this positive feedback loop, but that doesn't make it true. What if it's not true? Because again, I've been in a faith-reinforcing environment the whole way through. And so I was on Amazon, on the website, and I call it my sweaty palm moment. I said, do I want to actually reinvestigate my faith from as honestly an open-minded place as possible? Is this actually true or not? Not just find stuff that supports what I already believe, but really look at both sides. And what if I find out it's not true? Well, I'm going to have to change jobs. I'm not going to sit up here and talk about God every week. And frankly, I'm like, well, I can make more money doing something else. That wasn't all bad, right? My wife's going to be ticked at me, right? Because she's a prayer warrior. And it doesn't matter what I say. I know she knows her Jesus, and nothing's going to change her mind, you know? And so I was like, oh, man, I want to. And I went and I clicked the Buy Now button on Amazon. And I bought the books. And it's a specific topic about the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Bible changing. I thought Dead Sea Scrolls was on Team Jesus. But there was a specific claim the Dead Sea Scrolls show you the Bible is not reliable. I was like, okay, I heard it was, but I heard that at a Christian university, right? Which, you know, by definition isn't neutral, right? We pay money to go there to increase in our faith and our knowledge and our skills. And so I bought the book, and I looked it up, and then I went from being scared to being angry. Because there's a lot of things that are sort of true, but not really. So a specific topic about things changing in the Dead Sea Scrolls with the books of Moses was what you want to find. Right? We're going to talk about this with the story of Jesus. What you want to find is you want to find a story of Moses with less miracles. Just a good leader, you know, like Abraham Lincoln or George Washington or something like that. Sorry, wrong country. I've been in the U.S. a while here. Okay, but, you know, just a military leader. And then some smaller miracles, maybe some frogs or some locusts. And then the big miracle of crossing the Red Sea here. You want to see an evolution of the story from natural to supernatural. And ideally, you want the normal story to be older. Then over time, the story gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, that is not what I found at all. What I found was the story would change. Get this. Get ready to have your faith not shaken. The story would change where one book, because the books of Moses are parallel books, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It is Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy are parallel books. And so one place would say Moses went up on the mountain, gave a speech, and then came down off the mountain. But doesn't tell you what the speech was. The other book will say Moses went up on the mountain, gave a speech, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, has the words of the speech, then he came down off the mountain. What some of the scribes did is they copied the speech from one book to another. Does that change the nature of the story at all? So it's true that some things got changed, but does it change the fundamental character of it? No. So it was true, but not really. That is not. Dead Sea Scrolls are on Team Jesus, right? And that's a whole other sermon we can't get into. But they verified a lot of criticism. Well, the copies we have of the Bible, there's too much time between. And then we found the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are way older. And we found the differences between the copies we have and the older copies are minuscule or insignificant for the most part. And there's always some weirdo made some weird book somewhere and changed everything. But we have really, really good copies of the Bible, right? And we have thousands, tens of thousands of copies. And it destroyed a lot of the criticism. So what happens when people believe a book is holy, whether it's holy or not, if they believe it's holy, they are super careful in copying it. And we have found, as we find more and more copies, that over thousands of years, there are very little differences in the well-preserved manuscripts, right? And the bad manuscripts we throw out. That's actually why we have a Bible. The reason we have a New Testament, because people were writing up bogus books, and it was confusing the churches, and so the church leadership got together and said, these books are legit, these books are garbage, we're throwing those out, we're keeping these. That's why we have a New Testament. And these are the reliable ones, not the garbage books. So anyhow, so my brother, he went to me and he said, how can you believe in God? And no, he had some standard criticisms. These are common criticisms you'll hear. So if you go into a place that is secular around people who are ex-Christians in particular, they might say some of these things like, listen, man, you just believe what your parents taught you. Right? For me, I was like, I do kind of believe what my parents taught me. Uh-oh. Right? Let's say the Big Bang created the universe, not God. Who's heard of the Big Bang? Right? Well, you got the Big Bang, you don't need God, right? Number 3, evolution explains life, not creation. Miracles don't happen today, so since miracles don't happen today, the Bible is full of miracles, therefore the Bible isn't true, okay? Another one is Jesus is a legend like Santa Claus. Right, so I was just looking at Richard Dawkins' quotes last night. I think you showed me it, where he says, there's no more support for Jesus Christ than there is for Jack and the Beanstalk. Sorry, stole it. And you're like, is there? Jack and the Beanstalk is just a fairy tale, right? Well, we can track that story back in history. Pinocchio, we can track that story back in history. We can track the story of Jesus back in history. So we're going to check that out this afternoon. Again, my favorite sermon. And then the last one, if God were all-powerful and if God were all good, he would stop evil. Since there is evil, therefore God is either not all-powerful or he's not all good. Really smart people believe that. Like we were talking about the universe this morning, like Neil deGrasse Tyson. When he's asked about God, he doesn't quote science, he quotes this. Can we take a minute to talk about this? You guys want to get on to the sermon? This quote is not against the existence of God. This quote comes from 200 years before Jesus by a Greek philosopher named Epicurus. And his quote, as you look at it, it doesn't show that God doesn't exist. He's arguing, because he believed in all the different Greek gods, or his society believed in the Greek gods. He says the Greek gods don't care about you. They're not nice, so you shouldn't care about them. Number 1. Number 2, now this was Pastor Walter speaking, you always look for the assumption, okay? So let's look at number one here. You just believe what your parents taught you. Well, that's true for everybody. Again, you look at sociology, the number one predictor of what you believe, Pastor Bob, is what do your parents believe. Now, children will change, but how do you predict that? The number one association is what do your parents believe. So if you grew up in an atheist home, you're more likely to be an atheist. You grew up in a Buddhist home, you're more likely to be a Buddhist. You grew up in a Muslim home, you're more likely to be a Muslim. If you grew up in a Christian home, you're more likely to be a Christian. This is not evidence that God doesn't exist. This is evidence your parents do exist. So that's a nothing burger. All right. If God were all powerful, all good, he would stop evil. What kind of word is evil? If there is no God, what is evil? Evil is a theological word. Theo meaning God. Without God, there is no good and evil. There's just nature. Is it wrong when lions kill zebras? Is it wrong when the adult male lion takes over a new pride and goes around and systematically, which they systematically do, kills all the cubs under 2 years old so the females can have babies with him quicker? Is that evil or is that nature? If there is no God, then humans are just a super smart animal. But an animal is all we are, and with animals there isn't right and wrong. Genocide is good if you only look at biology. Genocide is wrong, okay? No one misquote me. Pastor Walter said no. But if there's only biology, I want my children to have as much resources as possible. And if I wipe out an entire other group of people, there's more resources for my children. So that's a good thing. If you don't have a God, that is positive for my children. Biology. Is that a good thing? Is genocide good? Why is it wrong? Because humans are in the image of God. Without God, there is no divine image. Without God, there's no reason why killing other humans who compete with you is bad. You're reducing competition. All right, let's talk today about miracles, okay? How lucky does something have to be a miracle? Let everyone pretend you're scientists, and you go to the beach, and you see these rocks perfectly balanced at the beach. Okay? It's possible a tornado dropped them off there. It's possible a giant wave splashed and they fell down there. It's even possible someone maybe like a dump truck came and just dumped a bunch of rocks and they just fell in this way. That is possible. Is it probable? You have zero evidence how the rocks got there. You didn't see anybody touch rocks. You just showed up at the beach. You see the rocks balanced. What's the most scientific conclusion you can come to? Only on the evidence you have that the rocks are balanced. Did that happen by accident, or did some intelligent being purposefully balance them? I was looking on YouTube. There's a guy who does this full time, right? And I was like, wow, I am not that excited about the topic to do that full time. But he goes in and he carefully takes him hours to balance the rocks. And it just looks amazing. All right? So, we talked about the rocks. Let's talk about the universe. When we look at the universe, is it like those rocks? And if it's like those rocks, is the most scientific conclusion, the most intelligent conclusion to be that it happened by accident or that an intelligent being balanced it? Okay? Another way to ask this is how lucky does something have to be before you call it a miracle? Now, let's play some games. It's okay if we play some games on Sabbath. God invented fun, right? Okay? And these are all theologically grounded games. So we're talking about random chance. If there is no God, everything is random chance. Everything is an accident. If there is no God, everything is only luck. All right, I want to see if there's someone out here. Let's see how lucky you guys are. Heads or tails? Okay, now, I haven't looked at it. He called heads. How many sides are there to this coin? 2. So there's 2 answers. He picked 1. So you have 1 out of 2 chance. All right, is that heads? Tails. Sorry, respectfully. Right, it's Sabbath. All right. Heads or tails? Tails. You got one right. 1 out of 2. Perfect, okay? Now, if you can get it twice, correct twice in a row, that's 1 out of 4. Because every time you flip the coin, it's 1 over 2 times 1 over 2 times 1 over 2. So it goes from chance of 1 out of 2 to 1 out of 4. Okay, you with that? 2 times 2. So 1 right answer, 1 wrong answer. The light blinded me. All right, it's right here. I haven't looked at it. Heads or tails? Respectfully, heads. All right, let's see if we get someone here with a couple right ones, okay? Who wants to guess next? Right here. All right, heads or tails? Heads. Okay, 1 right. So we're just at the 50-50. This is statistically perfect, all right? Heads or tails? Heads. Okay, now we're out of 4, right? 1 out of 4. Now the next one is going to be 1 out of 8 because it's 2 times 2 times 2 is going to give you 8. All the way up to get 10 guesses correct is 1,024. Caribou. At your school, how many right did we get? You got 9 correct. You got 9 correct. And I brag about you everywhere I go. They got 9 correct is what you're up against, okay? 1 out of 512 odds Caribou got last year. All right, heads or tails? This is 1 out of 8. Heads, all right. 1 out of 8, let's go. 1, right? 8 times 2 is 16. 1 out of 16. All right, who wants to see this? You said heads again, right? Tails, respectfully. Sorry about that. So the point here, it's hard to get 9 correct. It's even harder to get 10 correct. And every time to get 1 more coin toss correct, it is twice as hard, okay? These numbers are going to get very big. To get it 10 times is 1 out of 1,000. That's 3 zeros. To get it 100 times is not a little bit harder because every toss is twice as hard. It is going to be 1 out of 31 zeros. That's a lot of zeros. Now here's the catch. Every coin toss, let's say I'm a frog, that's the wall is 0. That is, the wall is impossibility, right? 0 chance of something doing. Every time I toss the coin, the frog jumps halfway, not touching the wall. Jump halfway, not touching the wall. Jump halfway, jump halfway, jump halfway, jump halfway, jump halfway. Every time the frog only jumps halfway to the wall, so technically the frog never touches the wall. So it's never impossible to get another coin toss correct. But at some point, if I'm tossing this coin, eventually, if I get, for example, 100 correct, you're going to call me a cheater. Why are you going to call me a cheater? Or a miracle, right? Because you just know intuitively that nobody is really that lucky. All right, we're going to try one more here. All right, whenever we're ready, we're going to flip the next one over. Let me see here. All right. All right, I have, kids love these, by the way. I have a giant game of Uno. I need to pick on someone. Who wants to play a game of Uno with Pastor Walter? All right. You did the coin toss, and the young man right here, I'm going to take the young girl right there. Come on up. All right. We're playing, what's your name, young lady? Olivia. Awesome. Remember you from last year? Yes, okay. Don't tell anyone how this game goes, okay? So Olivia, we're to play a game of Uno. That's a 2. That's awesome. What do I get? Oh, I got a wild card. Nice. Okay. Ready? Oh, today's your lucky day. You got a +2. Oh, I got another wild card. Man, I like this game. Right? Oh, my goodness. 2 + 2s. That's pretty amazing, huh? Oh, I got a +4. 4. Who said that? Aiden. Aiden? I'm just lucky. Don't you believe in luck, young man? I carefully shuffled these cards yesterday. Pastor Bob was around when I shuffled them. Why are you calling me a cheater? Did you see me cheat? Did you see me shuffle the cards weird? Did you see me shuffle them? Well, I didn't shuffle them in my house, so see. How do you know I cheated? How many wild cards is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, in the deck, there's 8 wild cards, okay? So, it's all, the cards are in the deck. It's always possible to get one more wild card. They are in there. In fact, it's possible to get 12 wild cards because they exist in the universe. An eagle might have flown through an atomic bomb, and this might have flown like a tornado through the glass into my deck, and I got 12 wild cards instead of 8. It's possible, just extremely unlikely, right? And so at some point, when do you doubt luck? When do you say that is too much luck? Thanks so much, Olivia. When do you say that's too much luck? Now, usually people call it at 3 wild cards. 1 wild card is 14. 1 in 14 games, you'll get wild cards your first card. 2 wild cards in a row, your first 2 cards is 1 in 200 games. 3 wild cards is 1 in 4,000 games. So this is my scientific experiment to see how much you believe in luck. Usually it's around 3 wild cards. That's how much faith normal people have, is 1 out of 4,000. Then after that, they're like, no, you cheated. At 4 cards, it's 80,000 games. Get all 8 wild cards is 1 in 400 billion. To get 8 wild cards in a row, you would have to play Uno 5 games an hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 8 million years. All right. I'm going to have to say next slide here. Let's go to the next slide. Next slide. I don't think so, right? Okay, so again, though, you can play. If you play this game with an atheist, or someone that doesn't believe in God, you can start pulling out a whole bunch of wild cards and kind of see how that works, okay? Let's go to the next slide. My clicker isn't working. I have no idea why. There we go. So how lucky, until you say someone cheated in the Uno game, how lucky does the universe have to be till you say, that doesn't line up? Let's go to the next slide, please. And my battery's full. I don't know, Pastor Bob, you can fix this or something. Something's not happy. Let's go to the next slide. Right there. All right. So there used to be a debate with scientists between 2 models of the universe, right? One model of the universe is that God created the universe. And we can see the universe is moving, right? You look through any telescope, even the ancient Babylonians could see the universe was moving. Another theory is the steady state, that although things move in the universe, it's like this water bottle, that things are moving around, but it stays the same size, okay? So it's not getting bigger, it's not getting small. It's the same size, and things are moving kind of like vegetables in a vegetable soup you stir, okay? So that's the debate. Well, in 1920s, Mr. Edwin Hubble, who the Hubble Space Telescope is named after, started looking through his telescope and started to measure things. So you can, scientists have all these tricks on how to measure things really far away. And you can tell if a car is coming towards you or away from you. As it comes towards you, the pitch is higher. It goes away from you, the pitch is lower. That's called the Doppler effect. Light does that. If a planet or a galaxy is moving towards you, it is blue shifted to a higher frequency of light. Light's a wave, right? It has a frequency. If it's moving away from you, it's red shifted. So Edwin Hubble started looking through his telescope in the 1920s at different galaxies, and almost every galaxy he looked at was moving away. Now this is really, really important, okay? So like these green dots, pretend those are galaxies. You look through the telescope, every galaxy he looked at, almost every galaxy, one galaxy is headed towards us, but almost every galaxy is moving away from us, and the further away it is, the faster it's moving, right? Like raisins in a big ball of raisin dough that's rising, okay? So if it's close together, it's moving slower, further it's moving faster. Now the thing is, if it's getting bigger now, if you go back in time, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it collapses into nothing. So in 1929, Professor Hubble published his findings. And some scientists found it amazing, and many scientists did not like the idea, especially ones who didn't believe in God. See, scientists aren't just like one group. There's scientists who believe in God,
There's scientists who aren't sure, and there's scientists who don't believe in God. So we should never say, scientists say this, but the Bible says this. I'm always like, which scientists? They have a lot of debates among themselves, right? And so Edwin Hubble was publishing this, and another really successful and famous scientist named Fred Hoyle was debating. He liked not the expanding universe, because that has a creation moment, right? It has a beginning. He liked the steady state. And so in an interview in 1949, to criticize the idea of a universe that is expanding and therefore has a beginning, a creation moment, and therefore evidence for a creator, because the universe can't make itself, right? The universe is everything. You don't get everything from nothing. But the universe, the evidence says the universe came from nothing. Well, that doesn't make sense. But he was arguing against Edwin Hubble, and he called it a Big Bang as a criticism. The term Big Bang is not against the Bible. Fred Hoyle, the guy who criticized the idea of the universe expanding and having a beginning, criticized it, calling it a Big Bang, and he specifically said it sounds like Genesis chapter 1. I'm going to see if they get that up there. I got the quote for you this morning. Is that PowerPoint going to work? All right. The quote there, I'm going to read you the quote since the PowerPoint isn't working. This is what he says. Scientists like the, quote, Big Bang because it is deep within the psyche of most scientists to believe in the first page of Genesis. Fred Hoyle. The Big Bang is on Team Jesus. Atheists say it supports not believing in God, and Christians say it supports not believing in God, and both of them are dead wrong. The Big Bang sounds like Genesis. When God said, let there be light, right? If there's a big explosions have lots of light. And it's a very, very old theological concept of creation out of nothing. We've been saying that for thousands of years, and science finally caught up to the Bible. Because we thought that was impossible to get something from nothing, right? And of course, Albert Einstein, who's also on the picture, if we can get the next slide, Albert Einstein, he came up with a theory of E equals mc squared, theory of relativity. Energy equals matter. We thought you can't create or destroy matter, but atomic bombs do. Atomic bombs destroy matter. A regular bomb is the same as gas in your car. Your car's exploding 1,000 times a second, right? That gas explodes. If you measure all the smoke and all the fuel and oxygen going in, it's the exact same mass. An atomic bomb destroys matter into pure energy. So if God exists and he has unlimited energy, he can turn energy back into matter. Instead of E equals mc squared, it'd be mc squared equals E. Science caught up to the Bible. Science caught up to theology. Okay, well, not only is the universe expanding, has a beginning, as we started to measure it, we had to realize the universe, is that happy now? All right, the universe, all right, tell me to go back to the older PowerPoint emailed earlier. That one was working with slow transitions. We'll see if we get the other one. The universe has to expand not too fast. If it goes too fast, it's just going to go into dust. If you just have dust, you won't have planets and stars. You won't have life. If it goes too slow, the speed is too slow, gravity will pull it back in on itself, and it'll collapse into a giant black hole and back into a singularity. No life. No stars, no planets, no life. All right, so it has to be perfectly the right speed of expansion. Okay? The other thing, when you have toast, I like to spread the butter evenly on my toast. I don't like having a big clump of butter on one side, right? Well, the universe, as it started, at the moment of creation, if you want to call the Big Bang if you want, which again sounds like Genesis 1, When it started, it had to be just the perfect mix of even and uneven. If it was perfectly even, just perfectly even, like perfectly spread butter on toast, it would, again, just stay as dust. You'd have no stars. You'd have no planets. It has to be a little bit clumpy to make stars and planets. If it was too clumpy, like, you put butter on one corner of your toast and try and eat it, the whole thing's dry, a little bit of butter there. If it's too clumpy, the stars are too big. Boys and girls and men and women, what happens when a star is too big? It collapses into a black hole, and hint, life as we know it cannot exist inside black holes. They're so strong, the gravity, even light can't escape. If light can't escape a black hole, life isn't going to thrive in there, right? There's all these different variables. In fact, let me see, I was asking for a guitar. Is there a guitar around here? We're going to go to this piano. Okay, this is piano. Each string can be tighter or looser. Now, I hope Pastor Bob doesn't mind if I just adjust the piano a little bit. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do it. Normally I do a guitar. I'm not sure where the guitar is, but if that string is a little bit tighter, it's going to go out of tune. A little bit loose will go out of tune, right? It has to be professionally tuned, and a little difference makes it out of tune. Well, the universe is like a perfectly tuned piano or a perfectly tuned guitar, okay? And so we talked about, first of all, the universe has a beginning, okay? The next thing is the speed of the expansion has to be just right. The evenness or the unevenness has to be just right. Gravity, just think about a little thing like gravity. Okay, let's just take my, my knife here and I just drop it, right? It falls, that's gravity. Well, you think if gravity is a bit stronger, things just fall faster. A little bit weaker, things fall slower. Like things on the moon fall slower than on Earth, and on Jupiter they fall faster. Well, the force of gravity itself, like the other things, if it was a little bit weaker, you just go out into dust, and you never form stars or planets. A little bit stronger, you collapse back in on yourself again. So gravity has to be just perfect, not with 3 zeros or 6 zeros, it's 1 in a million, not 9 zeros, 1 in a billion, not 12 zeros, 1 in a trillion. Gravity has to be perfect, not with 30 zeros, it has to be perfect with 60 zeros. That's Novem decillion, that's a huge number. Okay? So there's all these variables. As we look at it, there's actually over 30 variables. Okay? I'm not going to list them all to you, but here's the key, though. There's 2 of the variables that have some really big numbers. You count most of the variables up, you're going to end up 588 zeros. For comparison, the universe, the number of atoms in the universe is 80 zeros. That's a huge number. That's the number of the smallest things, the smallest particle, atomic, not the subparticles, the actual particle is an atom, and there's 80 zeros behind that. If you fill the entire universe rock solid with atoms, because most of the universe is space, right? Most of space is space, right? Between us and the sun, it's all empty. Between us and the moon, it's all empty. If you fill the entire universe rock solid with atoms, that's 109 zeros. There's 2 variables about the entropy of the universe, and I'm going to get this right here in my notes so I get it correctly. All right. Is the entropy of the universe and the distribution of mass energy across the universe. The number there is 10 to the exponent 10 to the exponent 123. It's a double-decker exponent. I was preaching this in Hawaii, and I was spent about 3 hours just trying to, what is that number? So the universe is 80 zeros. What's a double-decker exponent? Trying to get that. This is the closest I got. If you fill the entire universe rock solid with atoms, then you go around the universe with your pen, okay, with your little pen, and you write a 0 on every single atom in the universe that is packed full of atoms, rock solid, no space. Everything's rock solid with atoms. You write a 0 on every single atom, it's still not even close to the number of zeros you need for the perfectly balanced universe that we see right now, and there's 2 of those. That's how much luck you have to believe in. So again, if we walk up to that beach and we see all those rocks perfectly balanced there, what is the most scientific conclusion to come to? Those rocks happen by random chance, a tornado or a dump truck or a tsunami put those rocks there? What's the most probable conclusion? Something intelligent balanced those rocks. We look at the universe. Number one, the universe has a beginning. It is unscientific and illogical to say the universe created itself. Right? Things don't create themselves. They're created by something outside. So it has to be something super big and powerful to create the universe, number one. And the universe that is created is so finely balanced that if you fill the universe up with molecules and write a 0 on every single molecule, that's not enough zeros for how perfectly tuned the universe. That's crazy. And that's why when I'm researching this, a lot of the quotes I get, a lot of the science I get comes from atheists about the fine-tuning of the universe. I get it from Stephen Hawking. Even Fred Hoyle has incredible quotes about how perfectly balanced the universe is that it looks so designed, right? And so the conclusion here, kind of want to see, we're 1044. The conclusion here is that when we look at the universe, science is not against the Bible. As we look at the science, science has caught up to the very old concept of creation out of nothing. Both the Big Bang, the start of the universe, number 2, the fine-tuning of the universe, and number 3, the theory of relativity. Energy equals matter, mass, times the speed of light, times the speed of light. That you can create matter. We only found that out scientifically with Albert Einstein. And of course, that came out with the nuclear bomb. Okay? I have videos here. I don't know if they're going to work. Let me just kind of tell you. So I want to see both sides of the story. So I went on Google and said, what are the best critiques to the fine-tunings? I'm looking this up. All right, after my sweaty palm moment, I'm like, does God actually exist? What's the actual evidence? What do the smartest Christians say? What do the smartest atheists say? And I looked at the math behind the fine-tuning of the universe. Even the atheists are saying it's impossible. And I'm like, okay, what's the best atheist counter-argument? So one on YouTube, I found this world-famous scientist named Michio Kaku. He's a scientist of string theory in New York City, at the University of New York, okay? And he's there, I want to get this correct, string theory at the City University of New York, so he's an expert in the universe. There's an interview with him, and he's kind of mad. You can go on YouTube and find it for yourself. He's mad these missionaries came and taught him when he was a little boy that one of the ways we know God is real is because there's just the right amount of oxygen on earth, right? And there's just the right amount of sunlight. And, you know, we have all these different things on earth that make life possible. He's like, well, that doesn't mean anything because there's way more dead planets out there than live planets. So Earth's just won the lottery, but you know, there's billions and billions of planets in the universe. And so he's like, and he's kind of annoyed at that. Like, these guys tricked me, you know. And then the interviewer is saying, well, why do some people talk about the universe? How it's just fine-tuned for life? Does that give any corroboration to the idea of a God? He's like, no, it's not God. It's not God. But it can't be random chance. Right? To quote him, even Las Vegas wouldn't give you those odds. So the interviewer's kind of like, okay, well, what is it? So if it's not God, and it can't be random chance, what is it? Literally, this world-famous scientist, I'm looking at his eyes to see them laugh. You know, when you laugh, your eyes squint. I'm waiting for his eyes to squint. Straight, like poker face, looks right at the interviewer and says, no, it was a super advanced alien civilization. And then he kind of goes on with it more. And I love doing this in schools. Like, I do this in elementary schools. And I'll be like, now, boys and girls, what's the problem with saying an alien created the universe? What created the alien? Because that alien has to exist outside the universe to make the universe. Where'd the alien come from? Number one. Number two, if there was an alien so powerful and intelligent to create a universe this big, that's this perfectly balanced, that alien would be so much more powerful and so much smarter than any human that he would be worthy, or it, or they, or she would be worthy of our worship, and we would call that alien worship. We'd call that alien God, right? And again, there's the multiverse. We don't have any evidence for a multiverse. And even then, the numbers are so crazy. It's still, and then you're like, well, who's creating the multiverse? Who's creating the infinity of universes? You're just pushing the rabbit back down. And the thing is, some of these scientists, okay, some of them are so resistant to the conclusion of God that they're literally pulling things out of the air. They're making up ideas without evidence. Science is we're supposed to follow the evidence, right? The multiverse does not have evidence, right? The aliens, unless you call the aliens God, does not have evidence, right? They're resisting it in an unscientific, super biased way because some of them don't want there to be a God. But scientists, this is one of the areas where scientists, as they explore it, even if they don't believe in God, the Big Bang is one of the key areas that scientists who don't believe in God, when they look into it, they start to believe in God. So as Christians, let's stop trash talking the Big Bang from realizing the term Big Bang came from someone criticizing the scientific data that the universe is expanding. If it's getting bigger, it then came from a beginning, had a creation moment and a creator. And so the term Big Bang is a criticism against the science that is evidence that God exists. Does that make sense? Okay? The Big Bang is not the same as evolution. I hear that, oh, the Big Bang and evolution, da, da, da. I'm like, no, those are totally different concepts. Okay? The other area that when scientists look into it, from the science, they start to believe in God, not from the Bible, but from the science alone, is abiogenesis. Where does life come from? Where did the universe come from? Where does life come from? For our sermon, we're going to look at where does life come from? And, like those bouncing rocks, what is the most scientific conclusion to arrive at as we look that we do have life, and life had to come from somewhere? If there is no God, everything is random chance. So was it random chance, or was it some super intellect that created life? Let's pray. Dear Lord, I just pray that everyone in this room, Lord, whether they're retired or whether they're a teenager or a young person, Lord, that we would not be scared of the science. We would not be scared to ask the big questions, but that we would pursue with curiosity and an open mind and an open heart, Lord, to see what the evidence really is. Knowing that we'll never have all the evidence, or even if we did have all the evidence, we'd never have a perfect understanding of the evidence. But as we look at these perfectly balanced rocks on a beach, we can know with a very reasonable confidence that someone balanced those rocks perfectly. As we look at the perfectly balanced universe, and that the universe has a beginning in the past, that we can know that the smartest thing to believe, rather than some super crazy, insane amount of random luck created the universe, we can look at it and see that that is very strong evidence that something super smart and super powerful created the universe. It is not science versus the Bible, but in ways science has caught up to the Bible with the creation and the fine-tuning of the universe. Be with every person here, Lord, as they explore their doubts and their questions, Lord. May we find the best answers possible. In Jesus' name, all of God's creation said, Amen. Amen. All right. We're going to have a little bit of a recess here. I'm missing my watch. When I'm in a hurry to go get a sermon ready, I'm an absent-minded professor. I make little mistakes like that. But are there any questions you guys have before we break here? All right, did that make sense? That was a lot of science without the PowerPoint to cheat with. All right, no one's mad at me for saying the Big Bang is on Team Jesus. We're good with that? Okay. I know that blew my mind. I started looking at this and I was like, what? Is that where it came from? And actually, in my PowerPoint, I have quotes from the guy who came up with the term Big Bang. I have pro-God quotes from Fred Hoyle, which of course you kind of take, where they'll say, the evidence really seems to be someone created the universe, but as scientists, we shouldn't believe it. But I take this quote, though. You know how to put it in my PowerPoints. All right. Do you guys want to hear the Fred Hoyle quote? This is the quote from Fred Hoyle, the guy who came up with the term Big Bang. Right here. See if I can read it. A common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics, that there are no blind forces worth speaking about in nature. The numbers one calculates from the facts seem to me so overwhelming as to put this conclusion almost beyond question. And he is not a believer. He resists. He fought. His whole career, he fought the idea of the Big Bang, and he did a lot of research on carbon resonance, and the research that he did in his career actually ended up supporting the very theory of the Big Bang that he spent his career fighting. Doesn't God have a great sense of humor? All right, there you go. A little more from Fred Hoyle. There's more quotes, so we'll call that a day. Take a break, rest your brain. We'll stretch it more during the sermon, okay? Anybody want my sermon notes? Right here. Thank you.